Welcome to the Three Artmigos with Ed Suarez, Adrian Webb, and Paula Talesian, where we talk about art, business, life as a creative, and more. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello. So today we wanted to talk about artist block, which affects a lot of artists at some point in their career. I think it affects pretty much every creative, but we're focusing on visual artists. So let's just start with, have you ever experienced artist block?
I've had artist block many, many times over the years, and it's an odd thing, really, which I think is a really, really good topic to discuss because, in my experience with talking to other creative people, here's something I've learned. Most people don't tend to talk about it. That's the first thing. It's a bit of a taboo subject. I think there is this expectation that we always are at the top of our game or we have to always be creating something, especially with the role of social media these days. Oh, I haven't posted for 2 weeks. Yeah, and oh, well, I must get something out there. Oh, but I haven't done anything. Oh, that's a pressure. XYZ. Then you got every other pressure in life affecting you at the same time. And I think no matter how thick skinned you may be or how less you let the world sink into every pore in your body, sooner or later, you're going to be affected by what goes on around you. And it does have an effect on the way you approach your work. Of course, it's going to do that. So I think over the years, I've definitely felt that on quite a number of occasions, actually. Irrespective of what goes out on the socials or the frequency, you can get periods where, it doesn't matter what you turn to hand to, it comes out incredible. You're happy with it. You could fall out of bed onto a canvas and sell it for 5 grand, that kind of thing. But we don't tend to talk about the opposite, which is when no matter what you do, no matter what you try, and no matter how hard you work, everything comes out like a pile of shit in your own brain. Now, I just point out, it, to be honest, it's probably only a pile of crap in your own head because you've got an expectation about what it should be like. I would imagine that if somebody else were to see it, there'd be somewhere which somebody thinks this is the greatest thing ever. But it's all about managing what's inside our heads. And when that block comes, it's a really tricky thing, I think, sometimes to get out of. One of the things, again, no one talks about is the fact that it's okay. It's okay to feel like this. You have to give yourself permission to actually feel crap about your work once in a while because it's perfectly natural. And that's taken me a while to figure out and understand. Yeah, we'll talk about all the things you can do about, walking away and redressing your mindset and all those kinds of things, resetting, if you like. But for me, in the first instance, if you're in this period listening to this, or you're approaching it, or have come out of it, or have even experienced this, then giving yourself that permission to actually go, do you know what? It's okay. I'm not going to fight myself over this. You've got to fight to get out of it. So don't fight yourself about being in the position because that's two wars you're trying to win and it's just pointless. So that's the biggest single thing I've learned over the years is that I've just got to relax into it and go, okay, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it part of it as well, I think a way to get around that is to just do something. Um, you know, for Ed, I know that there are times when he's gone in there and there's been something on his mind, or we've had something that we've had to deal with. He's gone in there and he started putting the paint down, and it all starts to go wrong, and I can see it happening. And if I'm in his ear, if he's got his earpiece in, I'll go, just leave it, and or I'll just say, well, just throw it around until you've got the frustrations out, and then just come out because it's done. But one of the things it might do is if Ed's trying and it's not happening, something might mistakenly happen, which actually then gets him back into that, "Oh, I've got an idea." But I think part of it can be that if something is on your mind, home life, or, maybe it's the bills or something like that, of course, it's gonna stop you because you're gonna concentrate on that and nothing else. And I don't care who you are, and you can have as much money in the world as you want, you can still get that, that sort of block. It just comes down to there's something more on your mind than there is about creating that art. It can just stop you dead in your tracks. Um, Sometimes with me, I'm like, I need to solve a problem for Ed, and I don't know how to do it, and that's a block for me. But then I go, "Right, I'll just mash some stuff together and see what happens," and then go, "Ah, now that didn't work, but what it has done is led me on to another idea." And it's a way of trying to get yourself out of that block. But there are times when I'm like, "What can I do to fix the problem that Ed has?" And it's the same for me. Sometimes it gets blocked in there, and I don't know what to do, and I get frustrated with myself, and I go, "Oh, I'd go and do something else," and then come back to it.
That's fair. It's outside pressures absolutely do have an effect on how we create art because we do create art with emotion. If we don't, then what are we, machines? But I think because of the way society is, we are told to be productive every day or every week, produce art, show up online, do this stuff, be productive. And anything that is the opposite of productive is a waste. So then you have this pressure of, okay, I'm wasting time. I'm not doing what I need to do. I've completely failed. And you're right that that fight that you mentioned, Ed, of fighting with yourself becomes part of the problem too, because you're not leaning into that maybe you need a break. We follow the rhythms of the seasons and the rhythms of what's going on with our species as a whole. So right now it's very challenging in the world as a whole. And of course, it's going to affect people's ability to create art or art that they're satisfied with, but leaning into the fact that we are not machines and we need to have breaks. We need to put into ourselves ideas and inspiration by going out and having experiences and doing something different. That's an also important aspect of managing artist block, and I've been through artist block myself, for a few years because the end of my marriage started the period of artist block that I had. I still pushed through, I still produced art, but I wasn't connected with the art in the same way. There was that feeling of disconnect that was really, really frustrating to deal with. But one of the things I did was I showed up in my studio, and on the days I couldn't paint, I would clean or stand with my paints or be in that space and just stop demanding of myself to do something that I couldn't do, which was feeling connected.
That's a really good point. And I think a lot of the pressure, although we get external pressure on us from the outside world, the amount of pressure I think subconsciously we put on ourselves as creative people is probably the greatest of all because of what we've done historically. We're expecting to go into our studio spaces or our creative mode and do what we do. And when that doesn't come out how we expect, not even just once, if it's twice or three times in a row or however many times, that also has an effect. But it's like pushing a snowball down the hill. It just keeps gathering snow until you hit the bottom, and it's this gigantic problem, and that's where the block is. Historically, and I am just trying to think now as quickly as I can back to previous times, I've lost it for about 5 or 6 months without even touching or opening a can of paint, which is pretty crazy considering, we're a business, we've got bills to pay and people buying paintings. So, but yeah, that's the longest period I think I've gone through is about 5 to 6 months. However, in that time, that ability to, as you said, go and do other things or experience other things or concentrate on other things or problem solve or support AD or embark on a different kind of project for us has been enough to kind of clear that blockage out of the system and then allow you to return to what you do best, the core of what you do. And there is a cliched quote, which of course is true: familiarity breeds contempt. And quite often I found that through extended periods of work, whether it's for big commissions, well, probably especially big commissions, or going through a period of putting a lot of art out into people's homes, just that repetitiveness of doing that same task and facing that same pressure over and over and over again is bloody exhausting. So no wonder you fall out of love with what you're doing. I mean, that's human. So although I've never been married, I would imagine it's what it's like being in a marriage. My married partner is my craft, if you like, and I'm always having to respect it, look after it, find new ways to inject enthusiasm into it, find different ways of approaching it, keep it all fresh, keep it all alive, keep that love going. It might sound silly, but it is. It's still that thing. I have to have that love for doing it because otherwise you can't translate what you see in your brain and feel in your heart into something that somebody's going to pay money for. It just does not translate if you can't give that over. So when that's missing, when that falls apart, I've historically just had to walk away from it. Interestingly, and I'm sure Eddie will have a thought on this when I've said it. Right now, we're working on the biggest spin painting we've ever worked on, because I've got this ridiculous idea in my head about what I see, and Adie's given me the tools to be able to do it, and is still constantly evolving the ways to be able to do it so that I can deliver what I see in my head. I feel that pressure because it's an expensive piece of canvas. It's experimental. There's a lot of paint material in it, so everything is a cost, and this cost is just spiraling in time and in money and in energy. Even for something I can present to the client, and they might think, "No, I don't like that." But a simple sentence has managed that very well in my head, which lady said to me, and that's, "Well, this is the experiment. Just treat it as an
Yeah.
experiment, because then there's no expectation." And that comes down to mindset. Funny that, isn't it, mate? That so
Mindset.
much of what we
Yeah.
talk about is about mindset, and that we've raised that before.
Yeah.
But that one, so he knows me so well that by saying that has just reset that pressure in my head. Now, it might not mean that the painting is any different with or without that, but I feel differently about it. And if I feel differently about it, the chances of succeeding are greater. And I've never done this before, and he's never done this before. So for us as human beings, just us two, forget the rest of the world, we've just stepped way over that boundary line where what we are capable of is contained in. So gone, comfort zone is about 2 miles back in the distance. That's where we're at right now. And with that comes the pressure with it.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's very easy to cave into that. And it's very easy
yeah.
just to for that to spoil everything. And that's a block in itself. Even if that block only lasts for the duration of that particular artwork, it's still a block. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to do it. I can't do what I want. And then he's got to go away and sort and deliver that practical solution to that mental problem I've got. But even that's a block. So I think the last point, sorry, before you go, is we've also got different kinds of blocks. We can have temporary ones, we can have extended ones, we can have blocks over materials and problem solving. We can have ones that just last and cover every bit of what you do. So I think that's quite an interesting point.
Yeah. It was only to say that I know sometimes what you can do, what we have here is a block because of the size of this thing and the amount of materials, the cost and everything else involved in it. And somebody might turn around and say, well, why don't you plan it? There is no planning for this. This is just, you've quite literally got to put the paint on and see what happens. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know what a 30-mile-an-hour rotating diamond to diamond 4.3 meter with canvas on top of it, trying to figure out what's going to happen and figure out what gravity is going to do, what air is going to do at 30 miles an hour, so on and so forth. It's not impossible. And the key to it is that Ed hesitates and says, because I don't know, because it's unknown, I'll hold back. I'll stop. I'll put it off. And it is a block. Like you said, different kind of block, but it's a block. And that's when I said, look, we have to just treat this as this is just the test run. This is the experiment, which has been very helpful because it has learned us a lot of things. And maybe if somebody's doing something smaller, they can plan and go, right, okay, let's see what happens. But again, if it's that block where they say, well, I'm stuck. And I know one thing as well is that you don't want to let anybody down. You don't want to appear to be that you can't do it. You know, somebody says, but you're an artist. You must be able to do it. Well, not necessarily. And I think people shouldn't beat themselves up about the fact that maybe they don't know what is gonna happen, and therefore that's why they're afraid to move forward with it. But the only way we can say is that you could just say, "Right, well, screw it. I'll do something and see what happens." And if you screw it up and throw it in the bin, so be it. But at some point, something will start to happen. It will pull you back into it and you'll get that again. And that's what we've been doing with this enormous painting because, of course, all we're doing now is talking about the next one, how we're going to do the next one, what we've learned from this one that we're going to put on the next one, so on and so forth. And can we make it? in such a way that it's gonna be that much better, and hopefully it will, because but that's got us enthusiastic about that next one and how we're gonna do it.
There is this idea that we are tied into the outcome of things. This is what I'm hearing both of you say, that when you focus on creating something that's perfect, it can contribute to even a temporary block because you get performance anxiety, if you will, when it comes to creating. And I think for a lot of artists who produce work that, for sale or on commissions, there is this pressure to make sure that what you create is saleable or your client will be happy with it. And then you start second guessing what you do, even if it's something that you've done for a very long time. Now, granted, you guys haven't done the world's biggest spin table ever before, but you have created art for a very long time. And so separating your mindset from the outcome is really important. One of the things I've seen over the years on the YouTube lives that you've done, like 275 of them or something, uh,
Yeah, I know.
Yikes.
so one of the things you guys have done on the YouTube lives over the years is to not be afraid to fail publicly. There is a detachment from outcome in many of those lives that I watch the comments when people are commenting and all that, and they're really surprised or nervous on your behalf when you decide, "Well, I'm gonna just try and mix these 2 paints we've never mixed before. I'm gonna try this color, never did it before," or, "I'm gonna put this chrome down. It's, 10 pounds for 1 millimeter, but I'm still gonna put it down and splash it across the whole thing." Do you find that doing those live experiments helps you with your artist block? It keeps your ego in check and maybe your expectations around art making?
Do you wanna answer that one first?
Part of it is that we are always pushing the boundaries. We That's what we do, just push the boundaries. How far can we get? Whether or not we put it on live, yes, I know that Ed will get frustrated if if it's starting to go wrong. I can see when Ed's getting frustrated with it because let's face it, everybody wants it always to be perfect all the time, everywhere, isn't it? I'd love to drive down the road and hit every green light from here to home, but that's not going to happen, you know. But everybody wishes that's what would happen. We'd all wish that the sun would come out every day; it would be always perfect, and there'd be just enough rain to water the flowers, and off we go again. Doesn't happen. So I think part of it being that we like to show that it's not a rehearsed thing. When we go live, every single one of those ones. It's not really been rehearsed in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of something new. It may be taking a bit of technique from somewhere and using that, and then something from somewhere else, which is what you should do. Really, is take your knowledge and use that to go forward with something else. So I think it's part of that. But the experimenting on camera, it quite literally is. It's we'll just see what happens if something great comes out of it. If it doesn't, but also it's to say to the people that are watching who are creatives that hey, we all make mistakes, and sometimes it doesn't go the way you think it's going to, and we're happy to show that to people live. Good or bad, that's what we're doing. We're saying, hey, look, you can make mistakes. It's okay.
I think all of us can see that the world gets presented, especially on our phones and tablets, as this very polished kind of place. How often do you see someone who's taken a photo of their car, it isn't covered in mud? People going out enjoying themselves aren't dressed in rags, either they've got their makeup on or their nice clothes. So we're constantly bombarded with the best version of everybody. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing to live up to, because who doesn't want to live their best existence? That's what we're all trying to do, aren't we? At the end of the day. However, in an increasingly plastic, fake world, I like to think that what we're doing and have done is as raw, unscripted, and genuine and authentic as you can possibly get. So it's like, I think it's even, say, better, different to live theatre. So you go and see a play or whatever your thing is, but go and see a live performance of something at a theatre is going to have a rehearsal. Okay, if you're going to leave me a comment to say, yeah, what about improv though, Ed? That's not rehearsed, is it? Okay, so then we're doing the art equivalent of improv. There you go. That's a good
And I've seen
analogy, isn't
a few of those who
it?
go crash and burn.
I'm
So
sure you have.
you
Yes,
know,
you're used to it.
yeah.
Um, but I guess that's kind of what the live stream is. Yeah, yeah. Well, for a comedian, they can tell jokes. They understand there's a delivery, there's a pause point, there's a punchline, there's a this and that and the other. So you understand how jokes are scripted. But when you go into improv, you don't know what questions you're going to be asked, you don't know what situations you're going to be in, and so you have to then work accordingly. So I guess, and I'm just thinking aloud, maybe that's what our live streams have become. They've become the visual equivalent of improv theatre. And we've never been
Improv art.
improv art. I like it.
Improv art.
I'm just going to go with improv art today.
Yes.
That's a good
Yes.
word, isn't it? Okay. So I've right from day one, thankfully, never been at all worried, at all bothered, concerned, or stressed. No, stress is the wrong word. About messing something up live because I've understood right from the very start that what's the worst that's going to happen? I'll tell you what, he isn't going to fall out with me at the end of the day. He's still going to come. I'll pick him up every morning and we'll still come into work and we'll just go and do something else. So no one's going to beat me up. Number one. Number two, the people that are closest to me aren't going to disown me or not be my friends anymore. Number three, no one's going to take my house and my car off me. Okay. So I can still eat food. I can still go to sleep at night. So that's my benchmark. If I screw up online in front of 60, 70 people watching and however many want to watch it after the event, so be it. But here's the real crucial thing for me. That has remained authentically Suarez. And there is no denying that. There's no pulling that back to any simpler point of view than that. You can't disassemble that to be anything other than it isn't. That's just me chucking bait around. And in my head, if I've got it fantastic, I'm jumping around the place like this is the greatest thing ever, better than winning the lotto. And we've had plenty of those, don't get me right, where at the end of the live stream, both of us are like, whoa, I can't believe that. Here's the close-ups. And he's going, dude, that looks like mega. I've never seen that before. And we're all like, fist bumping each other when we come out, and that kind of stuff. And then equally, which is what this podcast is about, is when it doesn't do that. But when it's live, and this is the weirdest thing, I get through it, but it's almost as if when I shut the door, it doesn't matter anymore. It's gone. It's done. Doing it for a client, different kettle of fish, different matter. But I've even showed up doing lives in periods where I don't even want to paint. And I've not let that be known to anybody. There's only me and him who will know that, but we still show up every day. So there's another great mindset lesson. And this was another point I just quickly want to touch on, and we can debate this if you want. And that's to treat every day like a practice day, especially when you're feeling shit about what you're doing. Every day is a practice day. Even as you said, Paula, and I think that's great advice, is if you just go into your studio and tidy and clean. And we've had plenty of days where neither of us are feeling very good about anything because that's just life. We're human beings. You cut us, we bleed. Where the pair of us will come in and we just can't be asked with anything. And that's okay. So we'll just go and modge around, do something, or we don't normally go for a lunch break. We might go and have a lunch break or chew the fat with somebody or do something that is not related to feeling shit. So we'll go and do something else that doesn't make us feel shit. And if we've got nothing done that day, it's okay. Because you know what? I still like him. He still likes me. We'll have another go tomorrow. And I think so many people can get, again, I'm generalizing, can get really wound up in the fact that I should be doing something because that's the expectation. And you hit on that earlier on, Paula. And we need to get out of that mindset and just relax that down into the self. We're dead a long time. We can't get out of that fact. There's a sell by date, but there's no downside to understanding and recognizing that. It's all upsides. Well, if that's the only time I got, I better go on and do something good with it then. And it's surprising what that does about changing the way you feel about what you're doing. That was all I wanted to say.
I mean, I want to ask you, Paula, when you had that block, what was it that is there anything particular you felt like there was nothing good that you could, you know, do art wise? Was it that you just felt like you couldn't be bothered? Was it that you just something that just full stopped you? Because one of the things, and again, I think it's quite important if you do get this kind of block is, again, you said you went in there and you cleaned. So at the end of all of that, your studio was nice, neat, tidy. You know, your brushes were in a certain place, your canvases, floor was clean, bench was tidy, so on and so forth. And that said, you said to yourself then, at least I've done something. And we always say this about if you go in and even if you're not producing art, do something, even if it's like, dread to say it, but the books, balancing those receipts and everything else like that, or like you say, dusting the lights down, mopping the floor, doing something so that at least you go, well, at least I did something as opposed to going in, sitting there, chewing on a pencil, and then going back home again. What was it that was there something specific that you were sort of, holding you back? Was it your mood? Because again, like I said, with Ed, we know that there are times when I know his mood's bad, something's gone on. He'll go in there and I'll watch him start to paint and I'll think he's in a bad mood or he's thinking of something else. And the key to part of that process about artwork is almost like just emptying your mind, because at that point, it's when you start to see things. If you're going, I'm cheesed off because some bloke just cut me off at the junction and it's pouring down with rain and I've got a massive dental bill that I've got to pay. And you're thinking about all that, and then suddenly you look down and you've just done this horrible black cloud on a piece of canvas, and that's exactly what's in your head is that big black cloud. Whereas if you kind of clear it out and you go, "Well, I'm not thinking about anything in particular," and then suddenly something comes to you, you know?
So thinking back to it, I had a disconnect with my art. I wasn't aligned with the pieces I was creating, so I was creating pop culture portraits, and I just because I was my emotions were elsewhere, having that disconnect meant that I could still do the work, but I didn't feel like I was producing work that came from me in a way, and the more I did that, I'd force myself to do the work because I had a lot of commissions. I my business was, I think about 60% commissions. I had to fulfill those commissions, and of course, I fulfilled them, but the looking back at the paintings, I can see where I wasn't feeling connected to the subject matter. I was getting through and doing the performance part of it, but I wasn't doing something deeper. And so I took a wander, and I think actually I might have emailed you guys back then. This was a few years ago, so you probably don't remember. But I took a wander through doing a Suarez style of art. I took a wander through doing alcohol ink style of art. Never gnomes. I don't do gnomes. I took a wander through the real art, which I enjoyed, but I also found it challenging because my surreal art is a commentary on the politics in the world of today. So I was painting the stuff and then depressing myself. And then I sat down and realized that portraits are my thing. It is what I've always wanted to do. I needed to change the subject matter, so my, new body of work is actually of people I know, and really go back into why I wanted to create portraits, so re-engaging with myself. So, a couple of the things that we teach in Suarez Foundations, as you know, is connecting with your why. Why are you painting? What is your message? What are you trying to say? Because paintings are a vehicle for what we actually want to say. The same way that people who write books create that vehicle for what they want to say, that everything is subtext and commentary, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so when we go into Suarez Foundations and teach people to connect with their messaging, we want them to do it in a way that informs the work they create so it becomes more powerful. So I had to do the lessons back onto myself in order to create the work. But what did keep me going while I was struggling was showing up at an appointment. I had an appointment with myself every night, 7 p.m. I was in my studio to create art. When I couldn't stop and say, okay, something's good on Netflix or whatever, or I don't feel like it, or I'm a little bit tired, or, there's a donut in the fridge that's calling my name, I just made that appointment. But connecting with my art and my messaging and my deeper why is what brought me out because in the upheaval of my life, because of course as when divorces happen, you move out of your neighborhood, you sell your house, you move into new areas, kids are going through things and whatever. I'd lost connection with myself, and it's taken a while to get back into that connection with myself. And it was me making time and deciding I was important enough to sit down and figure out what did I actually like and what was my art trying to say and what am I trying to do with my creative life to put me back in sync with the work that I am now doing.
So I got an add-on question to that. Did you ever feel at any point in time that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing?
100%. I questioned my ability as an artist. I questioned my abilities as a communicator. I decided one day, and I told my entire email list I was no longer doing art. This was it. I'm done. Yeah. I absolutely questioned everything, and yet here I am. back to making art and having a show coming up. So I think that part of that, I think I could have skipped a lot of that if I had understood that my mindset was off and if I had gone back and really sat with myself and made that space because I did question maybe there's something else. I mean, I have a lot of other skills. I've written books and I've been a programmer and website designer and all of that. I have a lot of other skills I can do, which I think makes everything much more difficult. So I could go, well, I'm never being an artist again. I'll go off and I don't know, make websites. But it just art is the thing that's the core of who I am. It has been since I've been very young, and all artists say that they always were drawing and painting as a child, but it's the ones who never put it down or who pick it back up again intentionally as adults and make art that are truly artists.
So, again, I'm fascinated now. Did you have any, or are there trigger points for you going into an artist block? Do you know what they are? Do you recognize them? Does it creep up on you? Is it a sudden thing? I'm just curious to know how you when you've experienced that, what has caused it, uh, rather than how you get out of it.
Okay, I'm gonna I how I described it, because I document everything, because data is awesome. I described it as a constipation, basically. I knew I wanted to create art, and I was completely constipated, and so I would go through the motions and do it, but that connection was lost. So I could feel that. So it's a frustration. It's almost like trying to connect with a canvas through a layer of, I don't know, a layer of fabric. So you can actually touch the canvas, but not quite. There's that few millimeters of separation, and that's what it felt like. I had when I made my first body of work, when I decided to kick my art career off full speed ahead and everything else, and I created 25 paintings or so in 30 days. Halfway through that point, I was tired, I was fed up, I didn't know if I could do it. I was struggling, and I just got so mad at my canvas that I painted, I grabbed the neon colors out of my paint collection and just started painting a bright orange portrait, and it completely changed how I paint. So I paint with a lot of neon colors and bright colors, which you guys will get to see in person and when I come into the UK in May. So because they don't show up as well on camera, but it was that I could feel I didn't wanna paint, I didn't wanna be there, I didn't wanna do everything, everything sucked. My kids were in the house going, "Where's mom?" And, because they were younger, I mean, to be fair. But, I was just like, "Oh, I don't even know why I'm doing this." Orange. So sometimes artist block, if you allow yourself to be angry at what you're doing, can also produce interesting things. And so I'm gonna lead that into when I wrote about you guys in my second last book about how you have been doing this sort of a similar style of painting over the years, but became a master at it because you found ways to make it different, to go deeper. You could continue doing the same kind of expressive abstract art with your painting, but you've actually evolved it over the years and turned it into mastery. And so when I was building my body of work, I was watching what you were doing, and I think that actually also helped me push through and be mad at the canvas and put the orange on and be fearless. Sometimes we have to see other people being fearless to be fearless ourselves.
Well, well, that's I had no idea that was a thing, but that's yeah, it's part of that continually evolving or mastering a particular process for me comes from the fact that I get bored very easily doing the same thing. It's just as simple as that. And it's all very well doing, I don't know, 3 or 4 of a particular style, like splashy things, whatever, if I'm working on a commission. But after that, I just think, "Hey, I've done that now. What's next?" So my brain is constantly evolving. What can I do with something? Or I see something in my head, or I see I don't know, a cloud formation, or a bark on a tree, or a picture in a book, or something that just goes, "Ooh, I wonder what that would look like if I could recreate it in paint." Or something is structured a particular way, or it's heavy to one side but light in the other, and then I look at it and think, "Yeah, but why doesn't that upset me?" And then I'll sit there for 45 minutes trying to think about it. So the input and stimulation from just the world in itself in my own brain is so great. I've got this overload of things going on all the time. And that's probably what drives that desire to want to keep trying different things. But as you so rightly say, sometimes you have to get really pissed off with your materials to just do something, and out comes this completely new direction or new technique, or you go, oh, I want that's pretty awesome. We did a black and white one once, and went to a guy in Harrogate. It now sits on a nice blue wall. God, I can't remember the name of it. Something with the word line in it or something. I don't know. Black and white, and the most incredible left to right movement on it. Never been able to replicate it. Never. It frustrates me greatly because it was, in my eyes, one of my top 5 ever. And there's just something about it which I absolutely think is just amazing. But I can't remember how it was done. I can't replicate the materials. But I think that was just born out of, I'll just go and have a play. Maybe that was in a period where I was in a dip and thought, okay, today's a practice day. I'll take a piece of canvas. AD was probably filming it, and we'll just get on with it. And I can remember us chatting on our closed microphone and headphone system. And it was, dude, what the hell is going on? This is looking incredible. And we were both super psyched by it. But I have this strange feeling it was in a period where things weren't going terribly well with everything. And yet out popped
Mm.
this.
I think it was experimenting, and for me, it's I want my eyes to see something completely new that's never been seen before, and that's what drives me to push beyond what we should be doing, because there are the times, I say, where they've basically melted, and ones that have almost caught fire and so on and so forth because of experimenting. But it's me, I want to see something that's never been seen before. And it's a frustration, the fact that, on our live streams we have put that it's, the world's only and this, that, and the other. And they are. Because it's never been done before, and it's never what comes out of it has never been seen before either. And that's the thing that drives me forward. Just tries it stops that artist block, that, whatever you want to call it, because I just go, right, I want to see more and more new things. So I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. Yeah, it gets frustrating after a while when you've tried 20 different things and nothing happens. But if you keep going, eventually something does. And that's what it does for me, is it keeps me pushing forward, because of that. That's my drive. I want to see something new and more exciting each time.
What I'm hearing too is being super clear on your mission, right? What you're doing with your art, what you're doing with the Suarez business actually helps mitigate artist block. Even when you're frustrated, even when you're just doing a practice piece, there is that sense of, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying with my art. I can return
Mm.
to it when I'm feeling more connected, or when I take a break, or when I recognize that, using an equivalent metaphor, like if you wake up happy every single day, something's wrong, because people don't. Every day you maybe wake up mostly happy, and then some days you wake up in a mood, right? To ask an artist to show up and be creative every single day is insane and unrealistic. And I think we ask ourselves that too much without understanding that we are squidgy humans and not metallic robots. And the most important thing we can do is reaffirming what our mission is with our art and what we want. So you guys are creating things people haven't seen before. You're creating things that challenge you, in terms of producing them. It's like the world's largest spin painting, or the world's first largest drip painting, or all of that, in order to not only keep your interest in, but also to elevate your craft. And you're prepared to, what I like to call, murdering canvases and creating work that you need to chuck out that is no good, in order to produce the art that you want to produce. This reminds me of people who buy notebooks and pens and sketchbooks and all that and never use them because 'cause they're too pretty and too nice, and they don't wanna run the risk of putting an imperfect mark in those. And the same people who are afraid to make the first pencil line on their canvas or paper, or first paint blot, because now suddenly they're committed.
Yeah, have I ever? Yeah, I think we've had that once when we've replaced the lino in the studio, and it all looks prim and proper, and we've
Yeah.
tidied everything up. Or here when we moved to where we're currently at, and everything is so brand new, and you just think, oh, why can't it just stay like that forever? It's so shiny and lovely. And then within 5 minutes, it's just covered in paint again, and then that's fine. You just get back into what you're doing. And I just thought, as you were talking, Paula, of something else as well, and I hope this illustrates the block and how to get out of it really well. I hope it does anyway, so I'll have to just say it on the fly. For regular listeners and visitors to the site, suarezart.com, by the way, if you want to go and have a look, I suggest you do. And it's about the website. I've not done very much to the website in 6 to 8 months, apart from doing a video on the front page, which automatically plays because it's nice and one of Age's suggestions. We've run with it and it's working really well. But I've done nothing with the homepage. And slowly, you get through Christmas and your website traffic goes down because people are celebrating the holidays, etc., which is fine and fantastic. And then at the end of January, when credit card statements come through and you get less traffic because people are more concerned about paying their energy bills and living their lives and food and all those other things. But generally speaking, after 15 years, you kind of know where your peaks and troughs in your website traffic is going to be. And over the last 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer than that, we've just noticed this little bit of a drop off where normally it would be static or growing. So in my head, I've been thinking, oh, that's more work that's got to be done. And you get yourself into this little trough of thinking, why is that happening? Oh, I don't want to know about it. Oh, I'll go and do something else. So you just forget about it. And then just this week, I think I said to you, didn't I, the other day, I've looked at things and sat down and thought, right, I need to do something about this because it's a problem. And if I don't do something, I'm not going to solve it. And I've had my period of ignoring it, not feeling great about it, not understanding it, thinking it's a giant mountain to climb and I've got enough to do already. So I just decided to sit down one evening. I switched everything off, including the phone, got some music on the speakers, and decided to think, right, what am I going to do? Actually, just sat down and thought, what I'm going to do. I didn't do anything that evening. I just sat and thought about it. And it was the first time for about 4 or 5 months I'd actually sat down and thought, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. Maybe I now need to take a step back. And there's a good principle, taking a step back. It's okay to feel crap about it. We've already said that. And actually look at this from somebody looking in. So how is a potential client going to see what I've got at the moment? Is it working? Should I be worried about it? Can I make it better? Is it technically the way it should be? What actually is going on that's causing me this problem? Now, the little footnote I'll put to this is it actually may be nothing to do with what I've done already, and that just we're in a period at the moment where so many other things are going on the planet that searching for abstract art isn't globally as big a search as it has been previously. That could also be true. But what I also know to be true is that there's always a way to make something better. So this probably links in with both of us, getting very bored very easily with stuff and wanting to make things different and new and shiny all the time. Uh, but this time, this was born out of the fact that there is a drop off in website traffic. So, we get that just as anyone else is going to get it. So I came up with a plan. And begrudgingly, although I don't really want to sit there at night and do it on top of a working day as well, I made myself do it. So this week, I've been looking at site structure. I've been looking at how easy is my site to navigate. I've been looking especially at my homepage. What am I trying to communicate out? Am I putting myself in the position of a potential buyer? Am I trying too hard? Do I need to tone things back? Lots of different ways of looking at things. And actually, what I've done, I've put some subtle changes in place and actually shifted a few things around. And what that has done, it's too early to tell if that's going to do anything. It's actually reignited that little bit of a spark I've got about looking at potential things I need to do on the website because I don't have the budget to give it to somebody. I don't know anybody in my family or friends who does this kind of stuff. I can't ask favors off people. I can't afford to hire a developer. So it's all done in house. But now that's given me something else to think about. And I'm actually quite excited by it because I can go and measure it now. So, that's been a block for 6 months where I've just not wanted to do anything about it. But now it's born out of necessity. I've got to do something about it. And actually, I feel quite good about it. And we'll see whether it works or not. But that's so I've recognized that there's a big problem. I've been okay with that, and it's fine. But now is the need to pull myself, kicking and screaming out of it and damn well do something about it. So I hope there's some principles in there that will work for maybe other people listening.
When you run an art business, there's a lot of things you have to juggle, as we know. So, in addition to managing to create art and navigating artist block and all that, there are the things that you have to juggle that I like to think of as kind of open loops. So, if you find yourself struggling to make art, maybe it's because in your head you're running through and going, I have to fix my website. Have I done cold outreach recently? Did I send off the PR? Have I put stuff on TikTok? Like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done that I think also affects our ability to create. Like, we can't create art in a perfect vacuum because the world we live in requires us to have money and pay rent and mortgages and all the other bills and everything else, and so it's really important to close those loops. So I think another solution to artist block is working on the things that affect your business that aren't necessarily art making, but, will help with the sales.
Yeah, very, very good point. You got anything to add to that?
Well, I just, thinking about it and just as we're talking about it, I think there are a lot of distractions that can stop you from going forward with your art. But I think also those distractions can be a way to then come back to it with fresh eyes. Everything that Ed was saying about with the website and everything else like that. One of the things that it does for him as well, and he does it subconsciously, really, and he doesn't know he does it. He'll be looking through, say, the sold artworks and things like that, and thinking, right, okay, what can I shuffle around? What can I change? And he'll be looking to see what looks good, color wise, and everything else. And then something in his head will go, oh, I haven't got a nice black, white, and gold that I in this size and
Very
shape.
true. That's very
So it
true.
then immediately
Yeah.
throws him into right now I've got something to look forward to do within the art because I want a certain color for a certain group that I don't have, or a certain size or shape, things like that. So that's suddenly sparked something within him to go, right, I'm going to paint this. So it's that no matter what you do, and again, it could be that you go to a party and you see an old friend that you haven't seen for ages, and they say, "How you doing?" This, that, and the other. They say, "Yeah, yeah." A bit of a block at the moment. I'm not sure what I should do. This, that, and the other. They might turn around and say, "Oh, do you know what? I saw a guy who did this blue and gold the other day. It looked fantastic," and it might spark. Oh, maybe I'll do something blue and gold. There may always be that tiny little spark somewhere to light that detonator cord that gets you to that TNT that gets you back on that horse and starts you with your artwork again. So I think it is quite important that you kind of look and not desperately search for, but see certain markers that might get you back into that art that you want to do.
So really good points there. I just actually updated my own website last week. It launched, I think, on Saturday, and I put on somewhere around 70 of my previous paintings and sold artworks and whatever. But going through that body of work for 10 years of selling art, it allowed me to reconnect also with what I've done and feel proud of the works that I've created, the work that are pieces that are now in private collections around the world, the pieces I took to shows globally and locally that, I think that's important too. I think there's a lot of artists are neurodivergent or neurospicy, and one of the things that happens with people with neurospicy brains is we don't often stop and appreciate our accomplishments, and we just go, "Okay, that was done, now what's next?" kind of attitude, and I think it's really important for us to actually go back and look at how far we've come. So, in business terms, it's kinda like referring to the gap and the gain, where if you're looking at where you want to be and you're not there yet, you're in the gap. If you look at where you've come from and how much you've done, you're in the gain. And so everybody should stop and look at their body of work. One of the exercises I've done in past, courses is I've actually had artists take their bodies of work, if possible, lay them all out on the floor around them, and have a photo of them taken within that body of work. Because we also usually, I mean, you guys are an exception because 'cause you're working in a gallery and a studio space, but we usually don't see our pieces as a whole. We see the piece on the easel or on the floor or on the wall, and then we see a few other pieces, and then the rest of it is in storage waiting to sell or in other people's collections. So connecting with your previous body of work and allowing yourself to be proud of the work you've done. So not looking at where you've fallen short, not looking at the things you wish you had done differently, but just being proud of the fact that you've created these pieces and owning that skill as an artist, as a skilled creator, is a really important step also in navigating and mitigating artist block because we don't appreciate what we've done. Now, we can't be objective about our art, and that has to be said because we know too much. We know where it fell short, we know where we slacked off, we know where we picked one blue over another, and we wish he'd gone the other way. We can't be objective, but we can stop and appreciate it and try to let go of that, "Oh, I wish I had made his nose longer or given that person 3 eyes," or whatever. We can just stop and go, "Actually, this is a really nice piece. I'm really proud of it," and skip the negative self-talk, and the best thing I can say to anybody who's listening to this, if it works with your art style, so I can't tell this to Ed because his art's really large, is lay out at least 10 pieces around you and take a photo or have somebody take a photo of you with your body of work and watch how that changes your connection to your art, how you feel about your art, and how you feel about yourself as an artist.
Great advice.
Yeah.
In fact, just the other day, we had a couple of people who are on the business village that we're in just come up. They were showing somebody around, and while they were chatting, I was looking at the painting that was behind them, and actually just thinking to myself, and I was actually listening. No, I genuinely was listening to what they
No,
were saying.
were you?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I,
Gobsmacked.
yeah, I know. When do I listen to anything? And I'm just looking at the painting, which I've looked at 1,000 times before, just there. And there was a small part of it which I'd never noticed before. And one sentence came into my head, and I thought, "Do you know, these paints are freaking awesome, aren't they?" And that was it. And then I just came back into listening to what they were saying. And that stayed with me the whole day. I just thought, I know at the moment, ironically, he said, we are having significant um, dealings with paint because we're changing things again with paints. We've noticed there's been a particular change in them, and we need to eh, just reevaluate the recipe and learn a bit more about them. So that's quite an interesting thing for us to do. But anyway, that's a side note. But generally speaking, I'm talking that the type of paint that we use is really absolutely mind blowing, but in a creative block, sometimes I think you forget that the material you work with, let alone the hands that you use, those materials are key to you doing what you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether you have acrylic paint, oil, impasto, watercolor, whatever, or whether anybody else can buy them. In your hands, they become uniquely yours. They aren't anybody else's watercolors. They aren't anybody else's enamel paints. That's nobody else's clay except what exists in your hands, which makes them uniquely yours. And there isn't a single person at any other point in time is ever going to be able to experience that. So I think looking at your materials, certainly for me anyway, inwardly, always helps me. And what's also backs that up, we just recently bought some canvas from a local company actually, because we're doing a very, very special Jackson Pollock replica for a client in Denmark. But we need a particular kind of canvas that isn't the normal stuff that we have. And we bought this after searching and doing a bit of to in and fro in and got it back into the studio. We rolled it out, crumbled it in the hat, put it in your fingers and have a good poke and a prod and a feel of it. And the pair of us were like, "Oh, that's nice, isn't it?" How could just a piece of canvas on a roll make you go, "Oh, that's nice, isn't it?" It's not like we're shopping in, I don't know, some fancy shop about to buy
Well,
some
it
expensive
was
train.
it
But
was
for
like
us,
rubbing our fingers across some Persian
it
silk.
is. That's why
Yeah.
it felt like to us. It was the most beautiful experience because what we know about canvas and what we normally use, and that's not to say what we use a fantastic quality canvas, but we haven't had something like this in a while because our commissions haven't demanded it.
Mm.
But this one does, and we need a lot of it. And they're big paintings, and they're going to be something quite extraordinary when they're done. But just to roll it out, and then you put your mark on it, and then you start cutting it, and in the scissors you can feel what it feels like, and all of this tactile feedback that your brain is getting through your fingers is quite the and it makes you feel good about wanting to get stuck into the to do the damn painting. So I wonder if it'd be great to get some feedback from anyone listening or even watching what you feel about your materials when you reconnect with your materials or get a material that you're excited about. We get that with gold paints, especially metallic paints. We love shiny things here. So you get
Yeah.
a shiny paint, you go, and he'll go, "Dude, I found this." We had a metallic green once. We've never been able to. I don't know where we got it from. This like aqua sensational kind of aquamarine color. It was just insane metallic. And you get that, and the parents are like, "Whoa, I can't wait to use that." So you get on and you create something mind blowing, or two or three paintings with this insane metallic paint. But materials can be a real motivator, I find anyway. But they become uniquely yours when you've got them in your hands. That's really important. That's a mindset thing. So if I give you a tin of this green enamel paint, whether you're excited about it or not, you're going to produce something different to what I'm going to do. So all materials are unique materials, no matter what they are. And for me, that's a real motivator. That always helps me get out of a hole. Look, and he'll go, "Dude, I found this insane gold. It's only 5 quid a can. Should we just have a go just for shits and giggles?"
Mhm.
Yeah, man, let's have it. We end up buying a dozen cans of it because you just throw it anywhere and it's great and it makes the paintings
Yeah.
look different to what they've ever done. But it makes it different, so it keeps your enthusiasm going. And when you're enthusiastic, you're less likely to fall into a creative block.
I think it like you said, Paula, about the pencils, the colour pencils, say it's a Staedtler or something like that, where you've got that box of pencils and you don't want to use it because you're like, "Well, it all looks pristine and good and everything else like that." But that to me is that you're almost making an excuse as to why you're not doing it, because I learned this. I was like, "Oh, yeah," for one of my kids. Bought one of the boxes, had a little silver plaque made for the top of it. You know, this was a big, big set. I can't remember. It was like 300 and something pencils in this thing, folded all out this beautiful wooden box. I was like, "Why don't you use the pencils?" "Oh, it looks too good." So I said, "Don't worry about it. They're £2 a piece. I'll buy you a new one." So I said, "Whatever you use, and I'll just go and get you fresh ones so that if you want, we'll put those back in the box." So what ended up happening was that those 300 pencils, I went and bought 300 more pencils. So that box stays pristine and lovely, but every pencil's been used that is in that box. So it was a great way of saying, well, look, that's nothing to hold you back. Having, you want that kept pristine, that's fine. Here's the alternative. You buy each one of those individually, use them up because they're great pencils. They are really nice. And you keep the box. So it's that, knocking those hurdles out of the way, saying, right, okay, how can I do alternative? And again, like we said, well, you'll have to watch this space for possibly some really, really good metallics on their way. But that's taken a bit of work, but again, it's that sparking the enthusiasm for where do we go next. Materials can be a very good spark to get you moving forward. That new pencil, that new paint, that new canvas, that new paper, so on and so forth. Even that new easel. Do you know what? The old easel goes over to the one side, get a new easel. That will start that motivation moving forward.
One of the things that we lost out, I think as we were gonna wrap up this episode, so we've given a lot of great advice. One of the things we lost out here in my area is having art supply stores that are dedicated to professional artists. So we used to have a couple of chains. One of them, I think there might be still an online version of it, Curry's Art Supplies. It was formed 125 years ago, and I used to walk in there and just breathe in the art supplies. And that was also something I used to push my way through any kind of hesitation. If I wanted to create excitement around my art making, walk into an art supply store, breathe in the solvents and smell of canvases and the paints and that unique smell of art supply stores. Now, if you're not an artist, you're listening to this, you're going, "What the hell?" It's like walking into Home Depot or equivalent home improvement store, smells like construction. Walk into a bookstore, smells like books. Art supply stores have that deep, for me and for a lot of artists, have that deep connection to creating art. I immediately feel more creative in them, and we don't have that anymore. They've gone, out of business or they're strictly online. Buying something on Amazon is soulless. Sometimes it's a necessity, but it is soulless. You don't get a chance to go and feel like when I bought my easel, I couldn't go around and feel the easels and touch the wood and get a sense of how it's gonna fit in the space in the same way. So yeah, it's that connection to ourselves as creatives and getting excited over our supplies and maybe throwing in that unexpected extra gold in the mix to create that excitement. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, well, you tried. When people look back on their lives as a whole, so we're talking, 80-year-old, 90-year-old people looking back on their lives, the things that they typically regret the most is not trying something, not having the courage, not having the ability to face potential failure, which we've discussed before. Failure is not failure, it's data, it's lessons that you get to learn and try new things and maybe even be inspired about. They regret not trying. They don't regret trying. So you're not gonna go in, several decades, however old you are, um, and think back, "Gosh, I wish I hadn't put a mark on that canvas." You're gonna say, "Why didn't I have the courage? Why couldn't I do it while I had the strength and the vision and the ability to do this work? Why didn't I take the risks? Why didn't I step up and do something different and skip doing the same old shit that other people are doing and actually do what makes me special?" Like, going back to when I started throwing neon on canvas, as soon as I did it, I was like, "Well, who's gonna want an orange person's portrait?" But it ended up being the best thing I ever did. If I'd stopped and said, "Oh, should I or shouldn't I?" No, I just got mad and I painted in orange because I was just so sick and tired of everything. When I look back on my life, I'm not gonna regret doing that because that move informed the rest of my art career, my professional art career, and it made my pieces stand out and be unique. So I think it's important for us to do a couple of things. Connect with our creative space, as we talked about, going into your studio, even if you're not cleaning, connecting with that, even if you're not painting rather, connecting with that space, connecting with that feeling of being a creative. It's reconnecting with yourself. What are you trying to say with your paintings or your art? Because maybe you're not a painter. So what are you trying to say through your art? What is underneath all of that? It's connecting with your art supply store in person if possible, and it's allowing yourself to do things that are could murder your canvases, but could also be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, good point. Nothing to add to that. I think you've summed it up brilliantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that wraps up this third episode of the Three Artmigos, where we talk about managing art block, but also managing our expectations around ourselves as artists. And we'd love to hear your comments, good or bad. Send the bad ones to Ed, good ones to me, and and
Yeah, that's fine.
so we hope that you can take away steps that maybe will help you move forward with your art career, steps that maybe make you a bit more brave, maybe turn you from trying things to becoming a master, to digging deep, to managing your boredom, your anger, your apathy, and everything else when it comes to making art. We are not robots. We are not robots. I know a lot of people, especially in previous years, watching your every Wednesday lives and all that, are sort of like, "How does he show up all the time? How is he so regular?" You make an appointment with yourself and you show up. But when you were exhausted or whatever, you gave yourself breaks. I remember when you would say, like, "This is the last one of 2024," and then there was still, like, 4 weeks left in 2024. You managed that, showing up regularly, making the appointment, but also recognizing your humanness in the process. Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you very much for listening to the Three Artmigos with Ed Suarez, Adrian Webb, and Paula Talesian. You can check us out at suarezart.academy today to see how we can help you grow your art business, help you with your mindset, get over art block, and more. We have short workshops, we have longer courses, and we do have coaching on demand. And of course, check out Ed's artwork at suarezart.com and my own at paulatalesian.com. Links are in the show notes, and we will see you in the next episode. Listen to us on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube at the Suarez Art channel or the Suarez Art Academy channel. So,
Okay.
welcome to the Suarez. Blah, I forgot what we were called. Welcome to the Three Artmigos, a podcast hosted by Adrian. No, see that.
Oh, hang on.
I'll get me coat up.
No, she said it was broadcast by you, so I'll get me coat.
There you go.
There you are.
Yeah.
I'll see you all later. Have a nice
Bye.
podcast.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.